Today on the CTV News at 5, police arrest 2 men in connection to a suspicious death in South Lethbridge. Plus, the community of Carmagay is holding a public rally to save their continuing care centre. And the Canadian Women's Amateur Golf Championships hit the greens in Lethbridge.
CTV News with Jackie Scantlebury.
Good afternoon. Lethbridge Regional Police have 2 men in custody tonight after finding a body this morning. Alicia Fieldberg is at the scene. And Alicia, police aren't releasing a lot of details right now.
That's right, Jackie. Around 7:30 this morning, officers were called to this 5-plex and found a 47-year-old man dead inside. Police say they have a 25-year-old man and a 27-year-old man in custody. No charges have been laid. Investigators say the 3 men got into a fight at the home last night. We spoke to a number of people who live in the area. Many didn't want to go on camera, but say they noticed quite a few what they describe as shady characters in the area. And this isn't the first suspicious death in this neighborhood. Last year, a man was murdered in an apartment complex just down the street. Neighbors say they're shocked by the news of this recent death, but most say they still feel safe.
Well, it's never good to have something like this happen in your neighborhood, but we've lived here over 10 years. We're comfortable with the neighborhood. We're confident with our police force. I wouldn't have any problem. I don't think we mix with the type of people that maybe here would cause most of these problems.
And the victim's name is not being released at this time, but an autopsy is scheduled for tomorrow in Calgary. Jackie?
Thank you, Alicia. Now, a judge has handed a McGrath woman a 12-month conditional sentence after she admitted to forging checks worth nearly $40,000. Last month, 38-year-old Darlene Perez pleaded guilty to fraud and forging documents. The money was taken from the McGrath Band Booster Association. Part of the conditional sentence will include 6 months house arrest and 1-year probation, and she also has to pay back all of the money that she stole. The hunting guide for Ultimate Fighting Championship Brock Lesnar has now been fined. Lesnar hired guide Chad Stryker for a hunting trip near Many Berries in 2010. Lesnar was filming a hunting expedition where the former champ could be caught catching big game on video. Alberta Fish and Wildlife officers laid charges against the pair after they forgot to properly affix tags to a mule deer Lesnar shot and then pulled from a coulee. Lesnar pleaded guilty back in December for failing to tag the animal and paid a $1,700 fine. Stryker pleaded guilty on the charge today in Medicine Hat Court and was fined $2,000. An Alberta man facing charges in connection with the largest weapons bust ever at the Carway border crossing will stand trial. Last August, RCMP and the Canadian Border Services Agency seized 16 weapons, magazines, and a silencer. Police say the handguns, rifles, and several antique pistols were found made in custom-made crates that had been loaded onto the back of a flat-deck trailer. 48-year-old Kevin Swanson has already been fined over $11,000 in the case. He's elected to be tried by judge and jury. The 2-week trial is set for February 11th to the 20th. Dory's here with our first look at the forecast, and still going to be around the average mark for the next couple of days, but then when the weekend hits, whew!
We're in for another warm one, Jackie, that's for sure. We're going to head into numbers in the 30-degree range, possibly 32, maybe even 33 as we head into Sunday. It's going to be a warm one, and it looks like that trend is going to continue into the beginning of the work week. But in advance of that, enjoy these average temperatures while we have them for the next couple of days. I'll have more details coming up in a couple of minutes.
Thank you, Dory. Well, the community of Carmagay is holding a public rally in their fight to keep the local continuing care centre open. Residents are angry over government plans to close a facility for Alzheimer's and dementia patients. The Little Bow Continuing Care Centre has 18 residents and employs nearly 40 people. Village residents say closure would impact patients, their families, and the entire community. They're upset that the province is closing the facility without any public consultation. They're holding a public rally July the 30th, 2:30 at the Carmagay School. Changes to water and sewer rates are working as Lethbridge City Council has intended. Last year, Council redesigned the rate structure to reward conservation by shifting a large portion of overall water costs to the highest volume residential users. So that means You now have greater control over your own water bill. If you use less, you'll see a bigger reduction in cost, while if you use more, you'll see a bigger increase in your charges. The changes came into effect January 1st and are designed to encourage and reward water conservation. The city says most people will see higher bills in the summer and lower bills in the winter.
In the wintertime, you're using water that you're going to have to use every day. In the summertime, there's a lot more options in terms of whether or not you water your lawn or how much you water your lawn and whether you fill a pool or not, that sort of thing. So,
residents can sign up for budget billing, which sets fixed monthly amounts based on year-round consumption. Well, the future of one of the city's most prominent charities is uncertain after City Council rejected a bailout request. Catholic Charities asked City Council for nearly $80,000 to cover debts. The Catholic Charities Clothing Bank has been in a legal battle with its bishop in Calgary, which is preventing the group from selling assets to cover the debt. The grant from the Council's emergency funding program for nonprofits could have kept the clothing bank open until the case is appealed this fall. City Council decided not to invest taxpayer dollars in the used clothing business. Two Lethbridge landmarks are one step closer to provincial historic recognition. The Rylands family on 6th Avenue and 12th Street South is one of the buildings being recommended by City Council for historic recognition. The house was built in 1912 for the Hudson's Bay store manager. The other property is a grocery store in Staffordville. Both buildings will now be considered by historic and cultural affairs officials in Edmonton. It's just 3 days now until the London Olympics kick off, and excitement is building as the torch makes its way around London. Star Trek actor Patrick Stewart is the latest celebrity to carry the torch as it journeys through the British capital. He was overcome with joy.
Attended world premieres of big movies that have not had the excitement and the sense of pleasure and pride that people are exhibiting today. The great thing is it's the first day of the school holidays, and so all the children are out. It was thrilling. I shall never forget today.
Now, after weeks of controversy over Team USA's uniforms being made in China, the U.S. government has stepped in.
In China, this is China. China!
The Team USA Made in America Act was officially passed yesterday. From 2014, all ceremonial uniforms for the Olympics must be made in the United States. This year's team uniforms are designed by Ralph Lauren, but made in China, and that sparked massive controversy, even though past U.S. Olympic team clothing has also been made overseas. And you better take a good long look at Wenlock and Mandeville, the mascots for the London Games, because they'll be looking right back at you. CTV's Todd Battis explains.
Meet the face of these Olympics, or rather, the eye. Eyes. Actually, a pair of them. Wenlock and Mandeville. Appearing on toys, clothes, cups. Will they be merchandising magic or glaring duds? So far, no one's worried about them running out. Instead of choosing a London icon as mascot, the Olympic Committee looked the other way.
They weren't really looking for cuddly toys. They were looking for something that they could actually interact with.
They're perfect for long, staring contests.
There you go.
But the thing about these two, they don't exactly scream Britain, do they?
Pretty weird. Yeah, crazy.
It's very modern.
No animal or alien, though most people do agree.
Weird and cringy.
Perhaps they were inspired by that other famous London Eye. It's hard to grasp exactly what they are. Still, they're not the first confusing Olympic mascot. Remember Izzy from Atlanta, or these things from Torino. Even the trio of mystical mascots from Vancouver were head-scratchers at the time.
Half whale, half fishy, mouse type of thing.
The Vancouver creatures grew on people, and perhaps that'll be the case in London too. After all, it seems everywhere you go in this city, those eyes are following you.
If these don't draw you in, you can build your own version online, like many Canadians already have. Still, even that won't make Wenlock and Mandeville all warm and fuzzy. For that, kids will have to wait for the snow leopard and bunny of Sochi in 2014. Todd Battis, CTV News, London.
Big eyes. Well, the Olympics are coming to CTV, and it means a temporary move for our newscast. Starting Friday, you'll be able to join us for all your local news, weather, and sports at 6:30. We'll return to our normal time after the Olympic Games. Well, many of us like to bask in the sun during the hot summer months, including rattlesnakes. Rattlesnakes are an important part of our ecosystem, especially for controlling rodent population, according to experts. If you come across one, walk away from it slowly and watch your step, just in case there's another one nearby. Give the snake plenty of room to escape from you. Most rattlesnake sightings are in the southwest area of Lethbridge, including Paradise Canyon, Riverstone, Sunridge, Popson Park, and Cottonwood Park. However, they have been spotted throughout the city.
Sometimes people think that snakes can be really aggressive, and rattlesnakes actually aren't an aggressive animal. They like to hide more than anything, and they're actually really hard to see. So people may have walked by a rattlesnake a lot of times and never even known it was there. They blend in perfectly with the prairie grasses that we have here in the city, and so you can walk right by and not even know unless they rattle. And they will only rattle as an alarm. For them, it's kind of like saying, "Hey, I'm here. Can you please go away?"
Experts say the rattlesnake population in Lethbridge is relatively small. There are only about 50 adult snakes in the area. And controlled traffic farming is becoming more and more common in southern Alberta. In this week's Farm TV, we find out why it's also proving to be very efficient.
In early July 2012, Controlled Traffic Farming Alberta and Steve Larocque held the third annual Controlled Traffic Farming Field Day on the Curry's farm near Morin, Alberta. In addition to showing recent modifications to their equipment, Steve and Peter Gamache set up several demonstrations.
We wanted to see what sort of infiltration rates we were getting across the drill. So we simulated some rainfall by cutting out some cylinders, one on the outside wing, one where a caster wheel would be, and then one where the tram line would be, and one in between, so no wheels at all. And we wanted to measure the infiltration rates as well as like the speed of the infiltration.
The white paint, which had been diluted 1 to 15 with water, made it easy to see how far down the water had soaked into the soil overnight.
We've had a lot of rain lately, so we thought it would diffuse and scatter quite a bit, but actually it did diffuse, but it really made it, I couldn't believe it, it made its way down to 3 feet.
They had another test and invited the farmers to participate.
So across the drill we did a number of cylinders, we pounded it into the ground, did the same kind of water test, and some in between the rows, some right on the last year's stubble row, some right on this year's pea row, and we measured the time it would take for the water to infiltrate.
Another benefit of controlled traffic farming and inter-row seeding occurs when growing peas.
The openers are just 3 inches away from last year's stubble, and the goal with that in mind is to have our peas grow right beside last year's stubble and keep our stubble, you know, as tall as we can.
Farm TV is brought to you by DA Building Systems.
And to the markets now, where renewed concern again over the European debt crisis pushed numbers lower.